Now we're going to switch to a really more serious topic, and this also involves your vote in November. And on the ballot this November is question number 1, is an amendment to the Maryland Constitution designed to guarantee every person the fundamental right to reproductive freedom, including the ability to prevent, continue, or end one's pregnancy without state interference. And this was in response to the overturning of Roe v. Wade by the U.S. Supreme Court. And Nancy, since 1992, the state of Maryland has permitted abortion, actually much longer before 1992, the state of Maryland permitted abortions. But in 1992, the state had a referendum on this subject, and it passed a statute that allows abortions be performed at the viability of the fetus. And many argue that that's the question. Why is this needed, and is it likely to pass?
I mean, I think the initiative is to enshrine this in a more permanent fashion that's harder to undo with the voice of the people, as opposed to statutory language. That's all I can think of. I mean, I think it's likely to pass. It's an issue that's important to many people throughout the state, regardless of party affiliation, I believe. But, it's not. It doesn't solve a problem that currently exists because of what the statutory freedoms are currently in place. So, I think it's it's a political statement about the state of Maryland, if you ask me.
But it's also a statement about the language of the bill itself. I mean, certainly there were restrictions that were imposed in 1992, and that was reflective, actually, of the Roe v. Wade decision and its 3-trimester approach to abortion. And, there is a question about viability of the fetus. This is a very broadly written statute, and it's subject to misinterpretation, and it does remove that limitation of viability, which could, certainly, I mean, already we've seen advertisements of, late-term abortion providers moving into the states. So is that really something that the populace wants?
I think so. I have relatives who've had to deal with this in crisis situations and pregnancies. It's not their fault, but to think of them in a state where this would be prohibited and they could have died because of their inability. The medical institutions anxiety about prosecution for dealing with this in some states. It's a huge problem. I don't think it's a problem in Maryland, but it is a problem for some elsewhere.
And I'll ask the one last question, Nancy. Is it Maryland's responsibility to solve the problems of the United States? I mean, we certainly don't have a restriction on people coming into Maryland to have abortions performed. I mean, I'll leave it at that. I want to go to.
If you want to pick a fight about this, go ahead. But I don't think it's a problem. There's no demonstration of that, and the issue is something of a national issue, and we're not trying to fix other states.
Well,
let there be that way.
Well, no, I mean, I have my own reservations about this, and I personally feel it's an unnecessary bill. But the legislature passed it, and now it's up for the vote of the people. And Stacey, according to a Gallup poll, most Americans continue to believe that abortion should be legal in at least some situations. However, those numbers shift dramatically when discussing late-term abortions, with 70% of Americans opposing third trimester procedures. Again, what is the outcome likely to be in November?
Stacey, I'm going to put your last 2 questions aside for the moment, because I am here to warn every voter and every parent who watches this show that no matter what its proponents are stating, this constitutional amendment is a Trojan horse that will take away parents' rights to protect their minor children from having an abortion or to undergo gender reassignment without their knowledge or consent. Period. It's not what's in the language, but what is deliberately left out. It doesn't say every adult person is entitled to this protection, and legislators purposely fought against language that would exclude minors. Republican legislators asked for carve-outs to protect minors from the gender reassignment. If this passes, your child would be able to go through chemical or surgical transitioning without your knowledge or consent, and the state could possibly be paying for it. This is a very dangerous path. It is a wolf in sheep's clothing, and if parents are smart about this, they will vote no on this constitutional amendment, because as Nancy just stated, it basically will become cemented into Maryland law. It would be very difficult for parents to overturn. I think Democrats might end up shooting themselves in the head if this gets passed, because if children start undergoing gender reassignment without parental consent, parents are going to say, "Where did this start? How could this be?"
Stacey, to be fair though, I've read this. I've read this language, upside down, and while I, agree with you that it does not have a prohibition on age that an individual can seek an abortion, I don't see where the fear about gender reassignment really fits into this proposal.
Individual rights and reproductive freedom. What is reproductive freedom? It's not well defined. It doesn't say specifically that it's not gender reassignment. You can say that it's abortion, but to people that have been fighting against this up in Annapolis, to them, it's quite clear that it's linguistics legerdemain, that you're just playing with the language here. So this is, I think it's a grave threat. I think that the abortion laws are already cemented here in the state of Maryland. We have safe and legal abortion here. I tend to agree with that 70% that believe that there should be these abortion rights up to a certain period of time. And I think that we should leave it alone the way that it is.
It's interesting. And, what also surprises me about this is at least I don't hear a lot of debate on this topic. I mean, there was a demonstration 2 weeks ago at the county council building when the council was affirming their support for the constitutional amendment. But I'm surprised there aren't, ad campaigns and a more aggressive opposition to this. It's as if people just think it's going to be passed, and maybe it's just too soon before. But voting, gosh, we going to early voting in 28 days, and we'll save for another time to talk about how you get your mail-in ballot and being able to print it off the internet. But we'll do that the next time. Great discussion. Thank you. I mean, I think it's a difficult choice for some people, and it's a necessary one for us to take.